This boy in the Buddha TV series is called Jixiang. Before the Buddha attained full enlightenment, he and a few young friends would often bring offerings to him. The kusha grass mat that the Buddha spread under the Bodhi tree was prepared by Jixiang, and that's why this grass is known as auspicious grass. Jixiang is also the character called Baksidi in the Buddha's biography. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Xin Yuan. Starting from this video, I'll share the story of the Buddha's life, told through the memories of Baksidi. This way, we'll bring the Buddha's story to life in a vivid, heartfelt way, making you feel closer and more connected to him. At that time, Baksidi was only 11 years old. In India, he was an untouchable, belonging to the lowest caste. When the Buddha first met Baksidi, he gently patted him on the shoulder. This was unexpected, and it filled Baksidi with surprise and joy. Through this touch, the Buddha told him he was not born inferior. The Buddha also invited Baksidi and his friend Shanxing to share a meal, and the three of them took turns drinking from the same cup. These small, kind gestures helped Baksidi fully accept himself because he'd never thought he was worthy of interacting with people from other castes. After attaining enlightenment, the Buddha had to leave to spread the Dharma. Baksidi was heartbroken, tears streaming down his face. "If you leave," he asked, "who will teach us? Who will guide us?" Though the Buddha felt deep affection for them, he had to go to fulfill his mission, but he promised he would return. 10 years later, Baksidi was 21 and a new monk under the Buddha. He recalled how, just half a month earlier, the Buddha had come to their village, Uruvola, to invite him to join the Sangha. When the Buddha arrived at Baksidi's home, Baksidi and his younger brother Lupik were out tending cattle. Only their two sisters were there, 16-year-old Bana and 12-year-old Pimo. Bana recognized the Buddha at once, and excitedly said, "I'll go get my brother." The Buddha smiled and said, "No need, we'll walk to the river to find him." By the time they found Baksidi and Lupik, it was almost dark. The brothers were washing a water buffalo in the Naranjana River. When they saw the Buddha, they ran to the bank, hands folded, and bowed deeply. The Buddha greeted them warmly. "You've both grown so much." Baksidi didn't answer. He looked at the Buddha's serene face, his kind smile, and his shining eyes, and tears filled his eyes. He couldn't find the words. The Buddha wore a patchwork monastic robe, stitched from scraps of cloth into a field pattern. He walked barefoot, just as he had when they first met 10 years before. Those days, they'd spent happy hours together by the river and under the Bodhi tree. Baksidi glanced at the 20 monks accompanying the Buddha, all barefoot, all in the same colored robes. Beside the Buddha stood a young novice, smiling at him. He looked to be around Baksidi's age. The Buddha gently patted Baksidi and Lupik on the head, then said he'd come to visit them on his way back to Rajagaha. He asked them to finish washing the buffalo, then walk back to Baksidi's home together. On the way, the Buddha introduced his son, Rahula, to the brothers. The young novice who'd been smiling at Baksidi was Rahula, 3 years younger, but the same height. Though Rahula was a novice, he wore the same robes as the other monks. Rahula walked between the two brothers, handing his alms bowl to Lupik, then resting his hands gently on their shoulders. He'd heard so much about Baksidi from his father, so he felt an instant connection. The brothers, in turn, were warmed by his kindness. Back at Baksidi's home, the Buddha immediately invited him to join the Sangha and study the Dharma. 10 years earlier, Baksidi had told the Buddha he wanted to follow him forever, and the Buddha had promised to make him a disciple. Now, the Buddha had returned, and Baksidi was 21. The Buddha had not forgotten his promise. The Buddha sat on a bamboo stool outside the house, with the monks standing behind him. Baksidi's mud-walled, thatched roof home was too small for everyone. Bana turned to Baksidi, "Brother, go with the Buddha. Lupik is stronger now than when you first started tending cattle. He can take care of the family. You've cared for us for over 10 years. Now it's our turn to care for ourselves." The youngest sister, Pimo, sat by a large wooden bucket, silent. Baksidi looked at her. She was a sweet girl. When he first met the Buddha, Bana was 6, Lupik 3, and Pimo just a baby. Their father had died when Baksidi was 11, and their mother died 6 months later, giving birth to Pimo. At 11, Baksidi had become the head of the family. He'd found work tending buffalo, worked hard to feed them all, and sometimes brought milk for little Pimo. Pimo knew what Baksidi was asking. She smiled, hesitated for a moment, then whispered, "Brother, go with the Buddha." She turned away, trying to hide her tears. She'd heard him speak countless times of his wish to study with the Buddha, and she truly wanted him to go. But when the moment came, she couldn't hide her sadness. When Lupik returned from the village and heard Pimo's words, he knew the time had come. He looked at Baksaiti, then said, "Brother, please go with the Buddha." The courtyard fell quiet. Lupik turned to the Buddha, "Venerable One, I hope my brother will follow you. I can take care of our family. I only ask that you let him come back to visit us sometimes." The Buddha stood up, gently stroking Pimo's hair. "Children," he said, "eat something first. Tomorrow morning, I will return to take Baksaiti to Rajagaha. Tonight, my monks and I will rest under the Bodhi tree where I attained enlightenment." Before leaving, the Buddha said to Baksaiti, "Tomorrow morning, bring nothing but the clothes you wear." That night, the four siblings talked deep into the night, like a father about to travel. Baksaiti gave them his final instructions: to care for one another, to look after the family. He hugged each sibling in turn. When he held little Pimo close, she could no longer hold back her tears, but she quickly lifted her head, took a deep breath, and smiled at him. She didn't want to make him sad. In the dim light of the oil lamp, Baksaiti could see her smile, and he understood, and was grateful for her love. Early the next morning, Baksaiti's friend Shanxing came to say goodbye. The Buddha had told her the day before, when they passed the river, that Baksaiti would be joining the Sangha. Shanxing was the daughter of the village chief, 2 years older than Baksaiti. She was the same girl who'd offered rice porridge to Siddhartha when he was near death after 6 years of asceticism. She brought a bottle of herbal medicine for Baksaiti. Before they could speak for long, the Buddha and his monks arrived. Rahila spoke to Baksaiti's siblings one by one, encouraging them to be strong and care for each other. He promised that whenever he passed through the village, he would visit them. Baksaiti's family and Shanxing walked with the Buddha and the monks to the river. There, they all folded their hands and bowed to the Buddha. The monks, Rahila, and Baksaiti, saying goodbye. Baksaiti felt both anxious and joyful. It was the first time he'd ever left Uruvala. The Buddha said it would take 10 days to reach Rajagaha. Ordinary travelers could go faster, but the Buddha and his monks walked slowly, with calm intention. As Baksaiti slowed his steps, his heart grew quiet. He had fully committed himself to the three jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. This was the path he'd always dreamed of. He turned one last time, looking back deeply. Shanxing and his siblings gradually disappeared into the forest. For Baksaiti, the Buddha's walking was walking for the sake of walking. He seemed to care not at all about reaching the destination, and all the monks walked the same way, patiently abiding in each step. No one in a hurry. Every step was peaceful and steady, no sign of weariness. Each day, they walked a long way. Each morning, they went to nearby villages to beg for alms, walking in a line led by the Buddha. Baksaiti walked at the end, close behind Rahila. They walked in solemn silence, each step focused on their breath. Sometimes they stopped to accept offerings from villagers, who knelt respectfully by the road. When the monks received food, they chanted silently for the villagers' well-being. After alms gathering, they left the village slowly, found a shaded lawn, and sat in a circle to eat, carefully dividing the food into each alms bowl. Rahila fetched a bowl of water from a nearby stream, and respectfully offered it to the Buddha. When the Buddha held out his hands, Rahila poured the water slowly to wash them, then did the same for each monk, ending with Baksaiti. Since Baksaiti didn't have his own alms bowl yet, Rahila shared half his food with his good friend on a large banana leaf. Before eating, the monks chanted with folded hands, then ate silently, mindful of every bite. After eating, some walked in meditation, some sat in meditation, and some napped. When the midday sun passed, they set off again, walking until dark, looking for a place to rest, ideally a quiet forest. Each monk had their own cushion. Most sat in meditation for half the night, then spread their robes to sleep. Each monk had 2 robes, one to wear, one to keep warm. Baksaiti sat in meditation like the others, and learned to sleep on the earthen ground with a tree root as his pillow. When Baksaiti woke the next morning, he saw the Buddha and many monks already sitting in calm meditation, radiating dignity and peace. When the sun rose, they packed their robes and prepared for the day's journey. Day after day, they walked and rested. After 10 days, they finally reached Rajagaha, the capital of Magadha. It was the first time Baksaiti had seen a big city, carriages speeding down flower-lined streets, the sounds of laughter and bustle everywhere. But the monks' procession walked as calmly as they had by the river and in the fields. Some townspeople stopped to watch, Some who knew the Buddha bowed respectfully. The monks continued walking steadily until they reached the Velyavana monastery outside the city. News of the Buddha's return spread quickly through the monastery. Within minutes, nearly 400 monks gathered to greet him. The Buddha didn't say much, he just asked how they'd been and how their meditation practice was going. He entrusted Bhaksiti to the care of Sariputta, who was also Rahula's teacher. Sariputta was the head novice master of the monastery, overseeing over 50 young novices. Rahula was assigned to guide Bhaksiti in the monastic life, how to walk, stand, sit, and interact with others, how to practice walking and sitting meditation, observing the breath, how to wear his robes, beg for alms, chant, and wash his alms bowl. For 3 days, Bhaksiti never left Rahula's side and Rahula taught him earnestly. After a few days, Sariputta invited Bhaksiti to his room to explain the monastic precepts. A monk leaves home to take the Buddha as his teacher, the Dharma as the path to awakening, and the Sangha as support on the journey. A monk's life is simple and pure. Begging for alms cultivates humility, and it's also a way to connect with the world, so that people can experience the Buddha's love and teachings. 10 years earlier, under the Bodhi tree, Bhaksiti and his friends had heard the Buddha teach that the path to awakening is a path of love and compassion. So now, he easily understood what Sariputta was saying. Though Sariputta looked serious, his eyes and smile radiated infinite warmth and kindness. He told Bhaksiti that an ordination ceremony would be held to formally accept him into the Sangha, and he taught Bhaksiti the verses to recite during the ceremony. Sariputta would be his preceptor. About 20 monks participated in the ceremony. Bhaksiti saw the Buddha and Rahula watching, and his heart filled with joy. After Sariputta chanted a verse, he shaved a few locks of Bhaksiti's hair, then handed the razor to Rahula to shave the rest. Sariputta gave Bhaksiti 3 monastic robes, an alms bowl, and a water strainer. Thanks to Rahula's guidance, Bhaksiti put on his robes easily, then bowed to the Buddha and the assembled monks to express his deep gratitude. Shortly before noon, Bhaksiti practiced almsgathering for the first time as a fully ordained monk. All the monks at Velyavana split into small groups and walked into Rajagaha. Bhaksiti followed the group led by Sariputta. Just a few steps outside the monastery, he reminded himself, begging for alms is also a form of practice. He focused on his breath, mindful of each step. Rahula walked behind him. Though Bhaksiti had just become a monk, he was now a senior to Rahula because in the Sangha, seniority is based on ordination, not age. Rahula had been ordained young and was not yet old enough for full ordination, so when Bhaksiti received full monk's ordination, his seniority immediately surpassed Rahula's. But Bhaksiti knew he had much less experience than Rahula. He sincerely resolved to practice diligently and to cultivate the virtue of humility. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated. I look forward to your likes and support. Thank you, and see you next time.